everyone, this is Meisha with As Long As You're Breathing, and you're welcome to join us today to a very special Every Life is a Story event. I've been honored to participate in this collaborative book effort, and one of my co-authors is with me today, Stacy. I'm gonna say it wrong, so I'm gonna let you say it for me, Stacy. How do you say your last name?
Belinsky.
Belinsky. I knew I would mess it up if I said it. So Stacy is with me today, and she's going to share her story with us. Before we start, though, I want to remind everyone that the reason we do this is I believe that everyone has a story to share. That when we are open and vulnerable and share our story, we inspire others to do so. So if you have questions for us, please leave them in the comments, and we will get back to you. We will watch for your questions. This is a recorded one, but we will watch for the questions and we will respond to you. So thank you for watching us and joining us. And now for the Every Life is a Story event with Stacy. Yes, Stacy, let's hear your story, girl.
Okay. It's always interesting to be in the spotlight because it's definitely not something that I'm used to.
Okay, well, everyone deserves time in the spotlight. All of us deserve that. So, certainly being an author puts you in the spotlight. So, what caused you to decide to be an author? I mean, that's a brave, bold step. So, what point in your life, what was going on that caused you to, wow, I can do this, I'm going to be an author? What was going on?
Thanks, and thanks for inviting me to this too. But writing is something that I've always, it's always been a big part of my life, and through education and just through, I don't know, I guess even when I look back at what I had as a little kid, it's like, what will you do when you grow up? It'll say writer. From when I was, I don't know, 6 or something.
Mm-hmm.
So what I've done before are blog posts. And in particular, there was a blog post that I did that was similar to the topic. So the book that we're both in, the Find Your Voice, Save Your Life Too,
Mm-hmm.
when I heard about the project and in talking to the lead author about it, it reminded me of a blog post that I wrote that it's been like my favorite blog post. And not only that, it's on medium.com, and it's been like the most noticed of my blog posts. And it's basically the same topic, it's like, I was going to look up the title before I came on here, and I forgot I was going to do that.
That's okay.
But basically it was, speaking up when I'm not sure who wants to hear me. So this just totally resonated, and every writing that I've done before, it's either been a blog post or I have had other experience, but it's been more academic, where it's been like in a peer-reviewed journal where I've been, where I've worked with a professor and been on something like that. But anytime that when there's a chance to be more mainstream, because that's where I feel that you can. I think the academic part is important, but I feel like you really make more of an impact when you can connect with mainstream. So that's why I like writing blog posts, and to make it more permanent and in some ways more accessible, putting something in a book chapter and even drawing it out longer than a blog post might do. Plus, have be a part of this group, that we were both in, that's, it helps fulfill me, but then I also hope that it inspires others too, because, maybe my story won't resonate with someone, but somebody else's will. So it's like, I'm still contributing to that, however it goes.
Right, I understand, because sometimes it's maybe if your story isn't the one, then somebody will relate to a different story. But so there's always going to be a story there for someone. I know I've had that comfort too by being in the compilation. I understand that. But your story was very interesting, I thought. Do you want to share a little bit of your story with us?
Well,
Did
I
you
was going
pick
to
out?
I was
Yes.
going to read a little bit from the beginning.
Okay. All right. Great.
When I thought about what to write, I thought about why I wrote that blog post, and just like going back to all the different things that came up, and it took me back all the way to when I was a toddler,
Okay.
and a replacement teddy bear that I still have today, and this is the part that I was going to read in the beginning related to the teddy bear.
Okay.
So perhaps the importance of holding on to Dr. Cat for 50 years is a reminder. Maybe I am and can be that interesting character when I take the chance and openly express myself.
Yeah. I read your chapter, and you know, I had all kinds of stuffed animals when I was a little girl too, and I used my stuffed animals to talk to and to talk through, and that's what you talk about in your story, is how you, using the stuffed animal, your particular one, Mr. Cat,
Dr. Cat.
Dr. Cat. Yes, I don't want to downgrade the cat. The cat was a doctor. Um, to to express yourself. And I think we often do that as children. I think everyone's going to be able to relate to your story, because I think we all do that. We have stuffed animals are something that so many children even today relate to. I don't think we've outgrown stuffed animals. I don't think they have gone away. I don't think the digital world has done away with the stuffed animal. So so tell us some more about your story, and what inspired you to write it. So, because it was a very moving story.
Thanks. Well, as I was saying before, I started with the the good experience. So the good experience being that somebody really did ask me to speak up, and when I was kind of mumbling under my breath, this is what I wrote about in my blog post too. When I was mumbling under my breath because I wanted to say something, but I wasn't sure in the small group that I was in that it really mattered, somebody next to me said, "What's that, Stacy? Speak up! I can't hear you." And part of it is that I can't hear very well, but still, I mean, he wanted it. He wanted to know, and so did somebody else. And that in a funny way, because it's almost bullying too. But they were both being funny about it, especially the one who said that, and it encouraged me, and I kept going with it because I felt supported. So then, as I was thinking about what to write, there are a lot of stories that always came up, a lot of situations where I didn't feel supported, or where I would say something, but it was kind of knocked down. So it's like, I don't say something necessarily because I expect somebody to agree with me, but I even as a kid, it's like I still wanted the conversation. I wanted to know that I was heard, and that's kind of what the more current situation did. So it gave me that example, and I was just, I thought about different things where whether it's when I was a child or when I was in a relationship, just like the different aspects of things. It's like, when did I say things, and were they listened to? Was there a discussion, or was it just overruled?
Right. So often, it's not that we want somebody necessarily to even agree with us. It's not that somebody has to agree with us. Just respect us enough to hear what we're saying. Listen to what we have to say. At least respect what we have to say. I know I have one friend. He and I don't agree on many things. We don't see things the same way on several subjects, but we have great respect for one another and are able to discuss them. We stay calm. We even kind of laugh about the fact that we don't agree on them. And the conversations are very calm and respectful. And at the end of the conversations, it's all we've done is conversed topics that we just don't see the same way, and we just move right on to the next topic. And it's enlightening, and it's light, and it's easy, and it's comfortable. But there aren't a lot of people in the world you can do that with, but that is how conversations should be. And it's our goal is to find people we can be around that is how it is, and it's very difficult to find that. But that is the goal in life, is to surround ourselves with people that it's okay to express ourselves openly and honestly, and that there's no fear of being shot down or criticized for saying what it is we need to say.
Yeah, and also in this case, the good part was I couldn't lose my job over it because I was volunteering, so there wouldn't be a financial impact
Right.
for saying it. It's like, I wanted to be able to say things. I wanted to be a part of the group, and whatever I said, as long as it was respectful, it was at least at that point it was being accepted.
Right, right. So this need to be heard, as you've gone on through your life, what has it caused you to do? What kind of activities has it caused you to become involved in?
People's activities. Yes, I've become more aware of this now, but previously, are you speaking related to the story, or?
Yes, what you have going on online now that you're doing virtually and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as I become more aware of this need and like the feeling of like how it feels not only to be heard and listened to, like knowing that the other person really is having that dialogue, but also seeing what that's like for other people, or as other people have expressed it. One of the things that I wanted to do, that I've put an effort in for almost a year now, is a virtual show and tell.
Okay.
So this was inspired because we used to do it in person. Like it would be part of a meeting, or it would be part of just in person, at a specific location. But I like the virtual because it opens it up. Like you don't have to get to a certain place. You can do it like just like we are now. We're in two completely different areas geographically and time zones for that matter.
Right.
And
yes.
And that's okay. So it just the show and tell specifically is to support creativity and to support entrepreneurs, and I hope, just because I'm a woman leading it, that it also is supporting other women. And
wow.
it's usually a mixed group, but I always want it to be supporting women at the same time. But giving everyone the opportunity, because when you register, it's a free event, and when you register, you can choose whether you want to present or not, and everyone who does that gets like 5 to 10 minutes, usually like 5 minutes, to talk about what they've created, what project they're working on, or what they just finished, and then some time for Q&A, because usually there's people who have questions.
Mm-hmm.
And it may or may not go on longer than that, depending on how many people there are. And then, sometimes people don't say yes right away, but after listening to a bunch, they just, I will ask, once everyone who's requested that ahead of time has done, I'll ask if there's anyone else who has something that they want to present, and usually, especially newer people, will ask. So I
Wow.
get a few more, and and then there's just open time for a little while.
So how many events have you had?
We've had 11. It was
Wow.
kicked off on my birthday in 2020. It became the first Thursday of the month event.
Wow, that's wonderful. So, and from these events, so do people present things that they do for a living, or what sorts of things do people tend to present?
It could be hobby or it could be business. So I mean, like the blanket that I knitted as I was in progress. It's kind of big for this picture, but
Okay.
it's
Yeah.
sitting on my lap, so I just had it right here.
Yeah.
So it might be like that, and I just like my reasoning for making it's squares. I like making squares, but I wanted to make something functional,
Mhm.
so I made a blanket. So like
Mhm.
there's someone who's on it, who's been on it. She's obsessed with doll houses,
Okay.
but they're all, everything's mini, so it's all about making miniatures. And if you look at what she makes, I mean, it's like the full house, and she uses a 3D printer. And
Oh
she just
wow.
started using a 3D printer, but there's like all these different tools, so they're all related to like makers and maker spaces and stuff. And it's actually how I knew her before, but and hers is a business, so she can make probably miniatures, because I don't know if she just does doll houses, but to make miniatures and get hired.
Okay.
Um,
All
yeah,
right.
different artists, or sometimes it's just a hobby, which is okay. Or sometimes it's like people talk about their house projects, so it's functional, but there's a different purpose. Like I don't have to make a blanket, but maybe they
Okay.
have to
So
make something.
So it's a platform where people can just share what they're doing because they want to share, or they can share what they're doing to share knowledge, or they can share what they're doing because they want to share what their business is, so they can share their information and how people can contact them about their business. So it's all those things.
All those things.
All
Yes.
those things. So it's a place basically where people can share their voice.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. So, I know also that you're a songwriter, girl. I saw you. I saw you. I went to YouTube and I saw you, and you were up there just singing your heart out, girl. So, let's hear about Fun Stacy, because do you do that on Show and Tell?
I haven't. I mean, what you saw on YouTube was pretty much the extent of what I have. And I mean, Fun Stacy is on karaoke, but which I've talked about a lot lately. Um, the songwriting I would actually love to do more of, because I think that's another avenue
Sure.
of connecting with the mainstream. Whereas
And sharing your voice. Yes.
yes, because you're writing, and you're writing from your heart and telling the story, and usually that's connecting to somebody, it's connecting somewhere.
Right.
And yeah, so that, yeah, but I haven't done it much. I think I had one more that I did after the ones that were on YouTube, but it wasn't recorded. It was just co-written.
Well, that takes a lot of courage to do. So, tell us about that experience. How did you end up there?
Oh, I really like music, and just the writing factor in general.
Hmm.
Um, Funny enough, there was a bar I would go to, usually because uh, there were bands there regularly, and they didn't have a cover charge, and I had friends who would go there. But I would also see what else was promoted, and one thing that this particular bar was promoting was a songwriters group, and the purpose of the songwriters group was to be able to give songwriters the chance to practice with an audience what their original music,
Mm-hmm.
what they had written, which is that's where my videos are from. It's from those events.
Okay.
So I went to that for a long time, and the person who co-wrote the one you're referring to, he's like a main part of. Let's give a shout out. Shout out to Charlie Mitch. He just retired too.
Mm-hmm.
Retired from his day job, I guess you'd call it, because he's never stopped the songwriting or the music part.
Mm-hmm.
But we became friends. Well, him and his wife both became friends of mine, and when I asked around, because they promoted that you should collaborate with your songwriting, that collaboration was a good thing, and he's the one who I was able to connect with as far as when I had ideas. He's the one who helped me out, and in fact, the one that wasn't recorded, there was a third person involved, but Charlie was still there too. Charlie was a part of it. So he's been the one that that's why it's like when I heard he had a retirement party, I'm like, I gotta go. For a little while, and of course he was playing music, so he and his band, they had replacements. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, I could tell you had a great time. You were very you were not shy either. I enjoyed it so much because he was trying to set up the song, and you were like, "Can I tell the story?" You were like, "Okay, you're not doing this, Phil. Well, can I tell the story?" So I was just so proud of you when I saw you do that. It was like, "Okay, listen, I'm going to tell the story."
It was my idea.
Yeah.
It was my idea. So
I was like, "You go, girl." Yeah. I'm like, "You go, girl."
Yeah, but he's been awesome since he is retired. I hope we get to connect.
Yeah.
Again, especially if something comes up. I haven't had inspirations, but I did mention it to him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So songwriting though is something that you want to continue doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you certainly enjoy it, and you were a delight. Excuse me. It was so obvious that you were having just the time of your life, and I just, like I said, I love that you weren't at all shy. You were like, "Oh, hold on a second, no, let me tell the story. Let me tell the story." So I love that you were not shy about using your voice. So that was amazing and wonderful. So that was great. You have your own business, yes?
Yes, that's the show and tell that or the virtual show and tell
Is your own business, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
go
ahead.
Sorry, but the actual business is called Serendipity Spot.
The Serendipity Spot. Okay. So how did you come up with the name Serendipity Spot?
Interesting question. It's one that so I had a previous business effort, and when I was thinking of the names for that, it's like, is it about the people or is it about the space or the place? And for the previous one, I went with people, but I still liked that name. And Serendipity Spot comes from, actually, partially my experience from that previous effort, just watching the connection over and over and over again, and just seeing the magic, especially when people didn't expect it. They would come out to something, like they would just come out. They didn't know who they were going to meet, start talking to the person next to him, like, hi, I'm Stacy, and you might say, hi, I'm Misha, and, it'd just be like, well, what do you do? What do you do? And they would get into a conversation and talk, and somewhere an issue would come up,
Mm-hmm.
like an issue that they're working on would come up, and the other person would end up answering the question, like being able to help solve or at least like move the person forward. And I
Mm-hmm.
saw that so many times. It's like it's so magical, and I'm like, that's what serendipity is, because you don't it like comes up when you don't expect it
Just don't
to,
expect it. Yeah.
but there's like an inspiration, so it's like in the spot, it's like wherever the location is. So it doesn't have to be a physical space. It could be the Zoom, like the show and tell. It can be, or this, or it could be in a physical space. It can just be that you both ended up at the same event. Maybe it's not even something that I facilitated, but you just end up at the same place. And, kind of like when I went to the songwriters group all the time. You know.
So I think, Stacy, a good way to kind of wrap up the way you see life is you see life in this magical way where if if everyone would just show up and express themselves and be open and honest and vulnerable, then every place could be a serendipity spot. And that's kind of how I see it too, because I believe every life is a story. And if we show up and be open and vulnerable, we share our stories and help one another. So I believe we're kind of saying the same thing, only in different ways. And I think that you did an amazing job in your chapter in the book in talking about it. And I think that the serendipity spot is an amazing idea and very unique for sure. And I think that's a great name for it, serendipity spot.
A lot of the S's. Stacy, and then there's serendipity spot. It's not on purpose, but
Yeah, it all
uh,
flows together. It all
yeah.
flows together. Well, thank you so much. Do you have plans to be in any other books coming up anytime soon? Are you going to be in any of the other books, or?
I don't have any plans to be in any.
No? Okay, all right.
It, this has inspired me though to keep going with the writing, and I mean I do hope to get to a book at some point.
Okay.
But at the moment, what I really want is to pump up my blog posts. So
How do people get to your blog? What is the URL for your blog? How do people reach you? How do people find you online?
well, I'm on medium.com, but I try to tie everything together at probably the stacybelinsky.com.
Okay. All right.
It's a work in progress, but at least the blog posts
Okay.
should be there.
Okay. Great. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for telling us about your story and for telling us about you. And we just appreciate your time so very much. Thank you for being with us, Stacy.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.